there shouldn't be any surprises. And it's like, no, but how did I know a client was going to leave me? They've been with me for 3 years, because they always do. And they always will. So if you're ever in a place where like, oh, I have my clients forever, I'm golden. They're not going to be there forever. They just won't. They're going to move on. And if you are really training them forever, I would say you're probably not doing goal-oriented training anymore, and it's more of the rent-a-friend thing. They like hanging out with you, or they have zero self-discipline to complete a workout on their own.
Welcome to Smittyville, the smartest small town in fitness. Real talk for real trainers. Hosted by Chris Smith, CEO of Fitness World, and fitness business journalist Krissy Vann. This is the show for personal trainers. We talk business, leadership, money, and the stuff no one teaches you on the gym floor. Welcome to Smittyville, Population Trainers. Let's start in Town Hall. This is where we talk about the things that actually shape a career in fitness. Something that not everyone knows about is their finances. If you think of the education system that we grow up in, it doesn't necessarily lend ourselves to be financially literate. You turn 18 years old, you can have your first credit card. All of a sudden you're signed off, can be accruing debt in this lifetime. No one teaches you necessarily how to deal with that unless you decide to seek the knowledge. So from your perspective as a leader of personal trainers that are looking to grow their business and therefore grow their income, what kind of questions come your way financially? Because I know your team doesn't just seek career advice, they seek life advice at the same time.
There's a number of different ways I think I could take the question, but I think certainly there's what you frame there for sure, I think, is everything that everyone's navigating as they're adulting or growing into that. And, whether that's I've now moved out of home and I'm on my own, or I now have roommates, but I still have certainly financial obligations. So what does that look like? And, how do I get there? So yeah, I think figuring that all out and just, again, having a plan and knowing how you're going to get there is an important part. So if it's the hope, wish, want, pray kind of mentality, that's not a plan, right? That's certainly not a plan. And so, yeah, I think just make sure you get there. I think, one of the ways that we've even talked about before is like a lot of people, get anxious, right, about money. And it's like, well, why do young people get anxious about money? Because money makes people anxious, and with respectfully, like rightfully so, right? Like, one of the things that we talk about, or I've even, taught many personal trainers to say this, when we are talking to, potential clients about money, is like, we live in a real world with real money. And I certainly don't understand the inputs and the outputs of your bank account. But what I do know is I'm here to help you and change your life and make a difference for you and help you get from here to here, again, in the safest, fastest, most effective way possible. And so in many ways, like, that's something that, from a quote unquote, if you want to call it scripting perspective, that you can teach and mold for like ways to interact with clients to get over that kind of, how do I talk about the money with people when I'm uncomfortable talking about money? Because that is kind of the brass tacks reality of it. And to just go back to your question, it's really not that dissimilar for young people that are trying to figure out, I've never really had to balance a checkbook before. I've never really had a credit card before. I've never had to pay rent before. I've never had a car before, whatever else. And it's like, again, I don't know the inputs, the outputs, whatever, but what I do know is these are your goals. So if you tell me, like, these are my goals as a personal trainer, I want to be a part-time trainer doing this, I want to be a full-time trainer doing that, whatever that might be, then we're going to dig into that. And again, just kind of work backwards from that, right? Because now we've set your aim, we know your goal. Now we just work backwards to make sure we're doing all the things that are necessary to put you in that position. And then again, now the money doesn't matter, because we'll get there, but we're going to do it a certain way.
A lot of people could look at you, be tuning in and be like, well, this guy is the CEO of a company. And so how can he even relate to my thought process around money? But he didn't start that way. So maybe can you just lift the veil a little bit about where Chris Smith's career took off? Because as I understand it, when you started as a personal trainer, your family was growing at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, I was a personal trainer at a Gold's Gym in Portland, Oregon. And I wouldn't say I sucked. I actually think I was a pretty good trainer, but I hadn't yet connected the dots. Because again, how do I convey my value proposition in terms of who I am, what value I bring to the table, what that's actually worth to people, and then having the confidence to convey that to folks in a way that was not just that I could get them to believe it. I mean, first I had to believe it, obviously, but yeah, I mean, I didn't do well as a trainer at all, man. My first 90 days were horrific. I don't even know that I had 5 clients at the end of 90 days. And I don't think it was, whether it was pity or whatever, generosity, however you think about it. But I mean, there was a vice president at the time that took some time to invest in me, and I'd stuck it out that long. He figured, man, this kid really wants to make it. I was fortunate that I built some relationships with members over that period of time that started giving me some business advice as well. And then my business started to take off, but I needed some tools in the tool belt because at that point, just, you only know what you know, right? And it's that, those phrases of you don't know what you don't know. And there's a lot I didn't know, right? And it's not to say that I thought I knew it all because I certainly didn't, but it wasn't until I started getting these other pieces of the puzzle to kind of put together that bit of what I would even call a kitty puzzle to get myself to a place where, yeah, I started making what I would call sustainable income, meaning I could pay my bills. And that took time. And that was probably another, call it 90 days, give or take, right? But at the 6 month mark, yeah, there started to be some rhythm and routine to kind of what I was doing and kind of how I could get there.
Yeah, because it's not a get rich quick scheme. It is having a system and a goal. So when you talk about the tools in the tool belt, what are they?
Well, it was just understanding like time management, when to prospect, how to go out and talk to people. What does that look like? Starting to, even then, things have changed now with the digital age or whatever, but customer service hasn't. And so again, we've already been talking about the age of AI and what does that mean and some different things, but like, customer service still wins out. We're still in that age, right? And it's not to say that the future doesn't hold a lot more technology. And it's one thing that technology can't necessarily replace, which is just that. It's the humanistic nature of empathy. And you can program an AI to be empathetic, but it's not genuinely right empathetic. It's programmed to be empathetic. So that humanness of like, what do you bring to the table and how do you bring that to the table and figuring that out. And then, yeah, there's certainly ratios, right? If I'm just focused on meeting people, eventually over time, I can go, well, gosh, if I met 20 people today, 5 of those people wanted to have an appointment with me to see how I could help them. Versus if I say, I got to go out and I got to get 5 appointments. I got to make 5 appointments today. Who am I going to talk to now? Everything becomes so outcome based in every single conversation that it becomes unauthentic and disingenuous and all those types of things where it just doesn't work, right? It's too much pressure. It's too much stress, especially on what I would call the average personal trainer, which is a bit not loving the world of sales. And so again, it's service equals sales. So the amount that I sell is directly proportional to the amount I service, period. But if you're someone, well, I'm just super shy, I don't want to talk to anyone, I say, well, then you're gonna have a hard time.
Well, those that are having the hard time, because if all of a sudden, and this can be an industry where there's a bit of unpredictability in regards to the income you're making, especially for starting out or trying to build your personal training repertoire and business and repeat clients. So, how does that impact decision making then of the trainer, just in general life?
I've been an independent trainer as well. We talked briefly, like I started Gold's Gym and then I went from Gold's, became an independent trainer. And then I'm going back and being a trainer, at that time, which was then, 24 Hour Fitness, back in the day. I think that's truthfully where a lot of trainers go wrong right now is that they all want to be an entrepreneur from day one and they want to just go out and do everything. And again, back to they don't know what they don't know and they really don't. Right. And then I'm hearing stories even of people that have worked in enterprise solutions and they're paying coaches to coach them $10,000 to like make them successful in something. And it's like, well, what is their track record on success? And so to me, it's just like a almost vicious circle of insanity of like people teaching people that don't really know. And not to say there aren't credible people out there, because there certainly are, but there's also a propensity of like bad actors, if you will, that are just capitalizing on people's naivety, which is, you know, again, disingenuous and not good. So get where you're getting your information, how you're getting information. And I do think that that's the advantage of working in an enterprise system or corporation where they've got good sound structure. And there's certainly some that don't, right? I'm not going to sit here and name names of ones of who I think and don't. I think people should do their own due diligence. And anytime you get into an employment conversation, certainly it should be an informed decision, right? Who are they? What are they about? What's their track record? And then vice versa, right? Like that's what they're doing. They're making an assessment, and so should you. You should make an assessment of like, is this a place that I want to be? What is the culture of this place? What do the other employees say? It's like, well, yeah, I want to get interviewed by the manager, but I want to talk to 5 employees. What do you like most about it? What don't you like? And if everyone says everything's great and there's nothing to not like, they're I don't know that that's truthful either. There's got to be something that they're like, well, this one thing bothers me, but in the totality of everything, it's like it's a small fraction of like what I love about being part of, again, in my world, fitness world, right? I mean, we do that even when we interview managers, people that want to come into our system as a manager from wherever they come from. We interview them a little bit, but then that's just to see, all right, do we think they have a little bit? And then we send them out to our clubs. Go hang out with our GMs and our fitness managers, ask as many questions as you want. Once you've toured 3 clubs, pick any 3 you want. We don't care. But once you've done it 3 times, then come back to us and let us know. If you want to keep talking, right? Go learn about us and then tell us what you think.
We talk about money. Income can be quite variable. But I do feel like some people, regardless, then treat it like it's guaranteed. So tell me a little bit about how that could be a trap and how people should avoid that pitfall.
It's definitely a question that I get asked by trainers frequently, which is, my clients are leaving for this or that, and they go away months at a time. And it's like, how do I get around that? And so a lot of it is like, well, I can accept that on the surface, or I could approach it with a problem solution. So yes, I hear you on that. It could be variable, and it can be variable, but it can also not be variable. It's like, I know that's going to happen. So then what can I do? What should I do? What might I do? And so I would just say it's about like, well, if I have a steady client base that's based on like X amount of sessions per day, per week, per month, whatever, but I know that a certain percentage of those clients are going to travel overseas, I just do the math and I work backwards. And I say, okay, well then I got to be constantly prospecting, and I got to constantly be generating, let's call it 2 new clients a month. And as long as I'm doing that, it's going to cover that 10, 15% of session variability per week, per day, per whatever that I'm losing out on to keep myself whole, right? And so to me, there shouldn't be any surprises. And it's like, no, but how did I know a client was going to leave me? They've been with me for 3 years, because they always do. And they always will. So if you're ever in a place where like, oh, I have my clients forever, I'm golden. They're not going to be there forever. They just won't. They're going to move on. And if you are really training them forever, I would say you're probably not doing goal-oriented training anymore, and it's more of the rent-a-friend thing. They like hanging out with you, or they have zero self-discipline to complete a workout on their own, even though it's still not a physical goal, and they just need someone to kind of hold their feet to the fire every set, every rep, so on and so forth, which is fine too, right? If that's people's prerogative. If that's
Rent a friend.
yeah, rent a friend. Like if that's what you want to pay for, then by all means, like go for it, right? To each their own. But I think, yeah, about just getting people to their goals and kind of where they're going. So to go back to that kind of the angst of it in terms of how do you pre-plan for that? Yeah, there doesn't need to be a bunch of variability. There shouldn't be a bunch of variability. If you have a lot of variability, I would actually argue you're doing things wrong. And again, people say, well, then give me specifics. Or I'd say, well, are you doing a monthly newsletter? Are you partnered with the apartment buildings in your area to be in their newsletter to advertise your services? How often are you like on a monthly basis teaching a seminar, whether on your own, in your own studio, if you're an independent or whatever, or again, if you're an enterprise operation? Are you doing a knee seminar, a shoulder seminar? Like, what's your specialty? What do you know? Are you doing around diet, nutrition, flexibility, mobility, like whatever? Like there's I keep going on and on and on and on about things that you could be doing, quote unquote, doing to make sure that you stay whole as it relates to your financial objectives and goals with consistency. Or again, you're just like going to Vegas or wherever you want to go, whichever casino, and you're just going to roll the dice, right? Let's just do roulette. And you're playing roulette and you're like 22. If you just hit 22 and that's all you're going to play, there's a lot of numbers on the wheel. You might hit 22, but it's not going to be like, the probability would say 1 out of whatever, right? It's not very probable. I'm not about that. I'm about taking I don't want to be the house, right? Or I guess I do want to be the house money. I just want to know, like, I'm going to plan for and execute against.
Well, for those that are planning on the other side of the trajectory, there are some people that are really wanting to invest in themselves. And all of a sudden, you start to make real money and generate real income. But much to my point, how we started this conversation, you aren't really offered the blueprint or life advice of what you should do when that starts happening. So, what would be kind of your best advice when somebody starts to see real money come into the door?
Save as much as you can. Yeah, so those are hard lessons in life, and I think it's real hard to execute against. Again, Vancouver, where we are, is an incredibly expensive place to live for sure. And so there's balance to kind of all this for sure. But I think the sooner you can start to realize the power of saving and investment and what that can do for you over the course of a lifetime can be very, very powerful, whether that's saving for a home or a trip, or you want to get crypto, or like whatever your jam is, right? Traditional stocks, index funds, who knows, right? But the sooner that you can learn that lesson, then I think the farther you can get ahead in life.
Let's head to the trainer circuit. Real questions, real situations. Chris shows up, listens, and mentors from experience.
I would like to know, like, what's the one key, like, you believe to be a successful trainer in this fitness world or industry?
If I was to say it's one thing, I would say it's a determination that just always keeps you hustling, where you're just constantly moving, and then hopefully you're getting just enough traction to move forward. You got to hustle. I think a lot of people take it for granted. They think, well, I'm fit, I like working out, this and that. It's going to be a great industry. I'm going to get into it and I'm going to go make all this money. There's lots of people that start this job and then they're either not very good at it and they spit out. And again, they play the blame game. There's a thing you can look up called the accountability ladder. So take a look at the accountability ladder, because the first thing you do around accountability is you look at who? Yourself. And you say, what did I do wrong in this process? And so the challenge is going to be like, again, we're giving you a formula of success, right? All you got to do is follow the roadmap. Like, again, I have a house in Washington, I have a house in Oregon, and I have an apartment in Vancouver, right? So if I told you to go to my house in Washington right now, you'd say, well, can I get the address? Cool, I'm going to give you the address. How many of you are just going to try to find it on your own? Without a map, by the way, is where I'm going. Like, you're just going to find it. Good luck. You're all going to map it, right, in your phone, and it's going to tell you turn-by-turn direction, and it's going to tell you the fastest way to go at this point in time, right? Whether you use Google or the Apple Maps, doesn't really matter. It's that hustle, but I'm just trying to help you out. Also say, like, hustle on, like, do exactly what you're being asked to do in this course. Because if you do everything we ask you to do in this course and you're not successful, whose fault is it you're not successful? It's our fault. I got bad news. We're undefeated. If you run the play and you do what it is we're teaching you to do, I guarantee you'll be successful. Like, I'll bet you huge sums of money that you'll be successful. But if you're like, well, I just got to tell you, like, I liked a lot of it, but there's a couple things I didn't really like align with, so I tweaked them a little bit, but that's not why. That's not why I'm not successful. Can't be that. It's like, no, it is. Your job is to come out of this course back to the one thing, hustle to follow the recipe. Then what's going to happen is that's going to get you to above average. That'll get you to above average. And then if you're like, yeah, but I don't want to be that even. I want to be good, great, elite. Now, to be good, great, elite is when you're going to start layering on additional education and information and resources. You'll start putting in more of your niches, whether it be progressive overload, whether it be I want to train this type of people or whatever. Then you're going to layer more and more and more of that on, and that's going to take you the rest of the way. The one thing is hustle. Hard work every day.
Before we wrap, we'll leave you with a Smithism, a lesson Chris has picked up along the way.
Smithism of the day. I just think for clarity, because as Smithisms started to grow in popularity, and I've noticed some likes and comments and some different things. I mean, with full disclosure, Smithisms are me sponging off of people over my lifetime. So when they thinks I'm sitting around going, what is a catchy thing I can say or do? So I've been collecting them from all the leaders, mentors, coaches, different people that I've been around. I'm fortunate to have been around my whole life. And they're things I take, I interpret, I then apply them to what I do or how I think about my business or whatever else. So there's no credit being taken. Like, Smithisms are like me sitting in this vault of whatever in this ivory tower.
Disclaimer.
Yeah, I'm just making sure, like, there's a level here of people being like, wait a minute, I've heard that somewhere else. You probably did. I probably didn't invent it. It's just something I use with frequency or regularity. Yeah, so I think we're talking about money, and we're talking about financial planning and how to get after it. What does that look like? How do I avoid pitfalls? How do I keep my business consistent and all these things? And so I think the Smithisms I would share is like, if it's meant to be, it's up to me. And so again, if you're waiting for someone else to do something for you, you're going to be holding the beer or whatever for a while. It's not going to happen. So again, if it's meant to be, it's up to me. Get after it. Everyone, go out there, change lives, make a difference.
That's today's Smithism. Chris Smith is the mayor of Smittyville, and I'm Krissy Vann, your town correspondent. This is the smartest small town in fitness. We'll see you back here every other week.